Welcome to the Taylor Emmett podcast. Honestly, not another boring legal podcast. I'm John Green, a personal injury solicitor at Taylor Emmett, and I'll be your host over this series of 6 podcast episodes. We're going to bring you the human stories behind what we hope will be interesting legal subjects. I'm going to be chatting to a smattering of experts from around the firm about what they do, who they are, and hopefully with a few smiles along the way. Right, let's meet today's guest. We're joined on today's episode by Lisa Molinari, a conveyancer here at Taylor Emmett. Lisa, thank you for joining us. How's it going?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Nice to be here.
You're welcome. So you're a conveyancer.
Yes.
And like most people will have dealt with conveyancers in their time, well, if they've bought a house or sold a house, but it's perhaps a phrase that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. So what exactly is conveyancing?
Well, essentially transferring a property or land from one person to another. It can be a transfer between parties, maybe families, or it can be one person buying another person's house. So we ensure that everything's in order in terms of the title. We review all of that and we essentially then get that person registered, the buyer, at the land registry.
What do you mean by title?
All the key information that you need to know about the property, whether it's freehold, leasehold, who currently owns the property. It's an electronic document stored at the land registry, which is the title document. So each property will be registered with its own unique title number, and that is a document stored electronically for the most part at the land registry, and we'll get a copy of that when we're acting for a buyer, for example, and we'll look at that. It may refer to other documents that we also need to check. So it's a kind of shows a timeline of what's happened with that property, how it's been sold over time. So that's what we investigate.
So the land registry holds everything like a sort of digital paper trail.
That's exactly it. There are properties that are still not registered at the land registry. They are shown in what the original deeds, what people keep in their safe or with their mortgage lender.
The huge
bundle
with beautiful calligraphy.
Yes, that's
weird words.
Yeah.
I remember when I did a bit of conveyancing, there was I remember reading something about roots and what was it? Perches and the way they described
Yep.
the measurements of land were
Yep.
bizarre.
Yeah, that's it. So they're becoming less frequent these days, but sometimes even if the property is registered at the land registry, there may be documents that the land registry never got sight of when that property was originally registered. So if deeds are available, it's often good to keep those and make sure that when you sell a property, you pass those on to your solicitor, because it may be that one document where it hasn't been scanned properly by the land registry, or they've scanned it in black and white, for example, and there's an area of land that we need to identify the colouring on that, or things of that nature.
So sometimes you'll get these old deeds. It must be pretty interesting, like a historical document, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you'll see the original parties, which is quite interesting. The way that things were done, like you say, the calligraphy.
And the descriptions of people like Mr. Walter Marchison,
exactly.
candle maker or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember
You
seeing
see,
stuff like that.
You see their jobs. I've had circumstances where I've been reviewing titles and members of my family who were builders, I've come across their signatures and my grandparents' signatures and things like that, which just makes it quite interesting.
And you get these things out, it must be dusty.
Yeah, they
ancient
smell.
documents.
They do. They often smell quite musty. They've been in somebody's cellar or somebody's safe for years. Yeah. But as I say, often they're quite beautiful. A lot of them.
Yeah.
To a lot of people frame them in their hallways, and
you do see them,
nice.
Don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone told me once that there used to be these 2 brothers in Sheffield who used to write them all out, and that was their job, and they'd just sit there at some little office down near, I don't think it was near Bank Street or something like that, and that was their job, and they'd just sit there all day writing them out, because you do see the same handwriting, don't you?
You do.
So that could be right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I could have just made another thing up on the podcast. Anyway, so there's conveyancing. I think generally the public sees it as a fairly straightforward process, but probably not right, is it?
No.
So is that a common misconception?
It is a common misconception because it depends on what the chain is, and often people are not aware at the outset that they're going to be in a chain. So what I mean by chain is, for example, you may be selling your property to somebody, but they in turn have a property to sell.
Okay.
So that's where we get a chain, and then you're buying on, and the people that you're buying from, they may have somewhere that they're buying.
Yeah.
So we then end up with a chain, and the difficulty with that is that all parties within that chain need to be at the same stage in order for the chain to move forward.
And they never are.
And they never are. No, there's often a party that's waiting on a mortgage offer, waiting on search results, or haven't got replies to the questions that their solicitors raised. So it's very difficult in a chain scenario for people to meet their deadlines, their expectations of when completion will be, because often it is somewhat unknown, and that leads to a lot of frustration for clients, because they have, we all have a life, we all have things in our life that we need to, whether it's we're moving house to the children are changing schools and we need to be in for that purpose, or holidays to navigate where we're not around, or maybe people need somebody to help them with the move. So there's all of those considerations why people have certain timeframes that they need to work towards, but it's not often in their control.
Yeah.
And it's not often in the people that they're buying from's control either, because they might have a buyer who's not ready, exactly.
So do you spend a lot of time managing clients' expectations?
Exactly that. Yeah, it is a lot of that, because we can only advise a client on the information we've got, and we only have direct contact with the parties what I mean by that is if they are buying and selling, we can only contact the solicitors who are acting for their seller or their buyer. We can't chase further down the chain to find out the position of those parties, which is why in those circumstances the estate agents become key. Their role in looking at the larger chain, finding out what the parties in the chain and
oiling the wheels.
That's it. So yes, I do spend a lot of time just trying to explain to clients why things can't happen in the time that they want them to, and we obviously try our very best to achieve their timeframes, but it can be difficult.
It's not always in your control.
It's not in our control, exactly.
I remember a lot of clients were obsessed with getting into their houses before Christmas.
Yes, that's a
and I always remember thinking, why would you want to be in your new house surrounded by boxes on Christmas Day like that? That'd be my idea of hell.
I have literally had clients where they've got the Christmas tree and all the decorations up in their current property. They desperately want to move into their new property, and they literally take the tree fully dressed in the removal
just
van,
sling it in the back of the Astra
to the new property.
That's mad. Well, whatever. I mean, it's your life, isn't it? You crack on with it. You crack on. So, other than what you've mentioned, are there any other kind of red flags or pitfalls that people need to know about?
Yes, even when we've got to the stage where, the parties, whether it be a chain transaction or not, parties have agreed a date for completion, i.e. the date when they move house. There can be situations where we've not yet exchanged contracts, and exchange of contracts is key, because that's the date when the completion date is set in stone. So the date...
Hang on. Bit of jargon busting.
Yeah.
Exchange of contracts.
Yeah.
Is that when the deal is properly done?
Yes,
so exactly. It's not the point where they say, I'm going to buy a house for X amount. That's the point where the actual legal
commitment to the purchase has taken place.
And what happens if, for example, you've exchanged contracts and then it doesn't go through?
Well, that's a delayed completion. We would have to serve a notice to complete. So that's a whole different ball game about what financial implications there are, because there are penalties if
and is that in the contract?
That's all provided for in the contract. The interest rate and the calculation of how that works, because it's the defaulting party, i.e. the party that's not able to complete on that agreed date that has has to pay. Yeah.
It's no wonder people get stressed.
I know, exactly. And ultimately, if they have that notice to complete served on them, which is their requirement to complete, and they haven't done so in that 10-day period, then ultimately they could potentially forfeit their deposit. So the deposit is what, 10%? 10% of the purchase price.
We're talking about thousands of
pounds, people's life savings, because obviously it's one of the most important things that people do in their life, buying a property. It's a big deal.
The most expensive thing you'll ever do, isn't it? For most people.
It is, for most people. It really is. And that's why it is quite a stressful time for people, because it is so important. It's like, they may be relocating. There's lots of things to consider. Children to get in new school,
that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so they've already got all that going on.
Matrimonial splits, and there's a lot. So it's quite a difficult time for people generally, even if they are frequent movers. A lot of clients I have, repeat clients, come back to me, they move, they buy and sell frequently, but even that, and they're familiar with the process, or they may be investor clients and they know the process, it does at stages become very stressful for them because the deadlines they need to meet.
So you're part conveyancer, part mediator, part
somewhat
emotional support,
somewhat yes. So we've got to be aware of clients' needs, and we've got to be compassionate towards their circumstances, and we've got to really, that's why it's so key to understand the client and understand what their position is, and why they're moving, and what factors they've got around their life which is impacting.
So you're a very kind of open, friendly, empathetic person. That must help.
I would like to think so. Yeah, I would like to think so. I care about people, and I care about what they need to achieve and trying to achieve that for them. And if that can't be done, managing their expectations so we can get maybe not the outcome that they really wanted, but something very close to that if it's not possible, like for chain circumstances, for example.
So, without naming names, obviously,
yes.
Can you share any real life examples of how any issues like this have affected transactions? So like with searches or contracts or titles, is there anything that you remember, like where?
Yes, we've had a number of situations where transactions have been delayed because common one is the property has more land than is actually registered at the land registry.
Results.
So it is, but getting that land in the seller doesn't currently own that land, so it's like adverse possession.
Oh.
So yeah.
Okay,
so
hang on. So we need to do a bit more jargon busting.
Yes.
Adverse possession, is that like squatters' rights?
Yeah, essentially, it's where somebody is occupying land that they don't own, and they haven't sent an application into the land registry to say they are the owner. They have to demonstrate that use over time, and that's how they've acquired that. It may have been lost.
So if you can show the land registry that you've treated it as your land,
exactly,
and no one else has come along and said that's mine.
Exactly.
How long do you have to do that for?
12 years.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, for the most part, there are circumstances.
Does that explain why my old neighbours fenced off part of the woods that belonged to the council? They definitely did that. You know who you are.
So it's factors like that which cause delays where, the seller may not be aware of that issue. When they come to sell, they think, oh, this is land, we've used it for years, and they don't appreciate what the issue is. And then that can be difficult to get that.
It must be frustrating because presumably they used solicitors before.
Exactly.
And they didn't pick it up.
Well, it could be matters where they haven't picked it up, or potentially where they own the property and have just acquired the use. They've owned it for, it stayed in the family for generations and they've just used it in that way.
Yeah.
So there's not been a transaction to trigger.
Oh, I see. I see. And presumably if it's been in the family for generations, it might not have been registered at the land registry.
Yes.
So it's your dusty deeds again.
It's the dusty deeds.
My next rock band, that's what we're going to call them. So, okay. Is there anything that we haven't touched upon? What's the one thing you wish everyone understood about conveyancing?
I wish people understood that there are not set deadlines when things happen. I think people expect it because it's a transaction for it to be within so many weeks we will have exchanged, within so many weeks we'll have completed. Whilst we hope to achieve that, there are circumstances out of our control which mean that can't happen. There's also lots of other misconceptions. For example, like the Sheffield area, leasehold properties are very frequent, and often people think, oh, leasehold property, that's only flats. And that is definitely not the case.
No.
Why
is Sheffield full of leasehold properties?
We don't know. It just historically, that's just how it's been. We've just got lots of leasehold houses, and we pay ground rent, nominal ground rent. It might be £4 a year.
Yeah. 2 peppercorns.
Yeah,
I remember
exactly.
seeing that in a week. Imagine nipping round to see your freeholder and just dropping a couple of peppercorns on his desk. There you are. See you in a year.
Exactly. So people expect people are concerned, especially people from outside of Sheffield or even local people. They're not aware that houses are leasehold, and it causes them quite a deal of concern. But when leases are for 800 years, for example, it's not actually a concern. That they are sufficient, and
mortgage companies don't mind. Presumably.
No, not at all. Lengthy leases, leasehold houses, they are not concerned at all.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, so did a bit of research. And I've discovered that the Home Track July House Price Index, we don't just cobble this together, it says that Sheffield prices are holding firm whilst down south prices are falling. So what do you think the reason is for that?
Well, probably biased on this one, being from Sheffield, lived here, born and bred. I'm probably quite biased, but I think there are many reasons. Good universities, close proximity to the Peak District. I think in Sheffield you get that good kind of work-life balance because nothing's, it is a large city, but nothing's that far away, so you can have that balance of being in the city and maybe living towards the Peak District or a more rural setting, and I think that's quite unique. And very green, as I say, the universities, very good schools, and there's always the golden areas, isn't there, that people are always wanting to either move to or stay in. And there are limited properties within those areas,
so the house prices
stay up because there's always that demand for areas that with the best schools, proximity to the universities, etc.
It says here that the top 5 in English cities for house prices are Sheffield, Nottingham, Birmingham, Manchester and Leeds.
Right.
And at the bottom end, Cambridge, London, Bournemouth, Portsmouth and Oxford. So obviously just more proof we needed the superiority of the north.
Of the northern.
So have you got any interesting stories about conveyancing jobs that you've done?
I have, yes. I've got one particular one that stays in my mind. It's ingrained. And that was when we were close to exchange of contracts on a transaction. We then received via fax. That's how. Fax.
You got a message from the 1950s.
I did. Various documentation. They said it was just a brief fax saying we've located the attached in our client's deeds. So they'd found the original deeds. They'd gone through them, and I personally think they knew about this the entire way, but disclosed it at a late stage, hoping that it wouldn't get reviewed. Anyway, within those documents, it detailed that in the garden to the property was a burial site.
A human burial?
A human burial. She had a woodland funeral in the garden. So the garden backed onto a golf course. It was quite woodland towards the back of the garden where it met the golf course. And she'd had a woodland funeral, and it was the owner of the property who had requested in her will that she be buried in the garden. However, what was it later transpired from speaking with the agents and the seller solicitors that actually the reason that the seller requested that she be buried in the garden, not because she was particularly attached to the property or anything like that, it was because she wanted to do so that in the future, when the property came up for sale, it would put future buyers off. And
oh my God.
And she wanted to do that because
she was a mean old lady.
Well, and as part of that, there was a restriction on the title so that her ex-husband was paid out a certain percentage of the sale proceeds, and she wanted the house not to sell so that he never got his share of the sale proceeds.
So she trolled her ex-husband from beyond the grave.
She did.
Fair play.
She did, but it didn't work, unfortunately.
Didn't work.
My client, obviously that was quite a tricky one because I knew that the lender wouldn't be happy to proceed with the burial site in the garden.
Isn't it illegal? Aren't you supposed to get permission?
No, she did get the relevant permissions,
okay.
etc. But I knew that all the lender really is concerned about is that should the person who was buying the property default on the mortgage, they're able to sell that property and sell it very quickly without issue. So I knew that the lender would have an issue with it. I reported it to the lender, but I had to make a suggestion I had to think on my feet about how I would get around that. So came up with a solution where I would carve off that piece of land where the burial site, so did a transfer of part, so a separate transfer, so to make sure that my buyer client would be able to purchase the property and garden, but excluding the burial site, and have a mortgage secured on that, and then get the sellers to transfer the burial site under a separate parcel, free from mortgage,
Okay.
so that we could get the transaction through. And it worked. The lenders were happy, and the clients purchased a property. They were happy, but my concern was that they had a number of dogs.
Oh
and
my God.
I was worrying, very large dogs, and I never really forgot. I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to dig.
God.
dig.
What's that you've got there, boy?
They are, yeah.
A femur?
And interestingly, actually, I had to raise a number of inquiries about access to this burial site, and if the relatives wanted access, and what that would look like, because there was nothing detailed, and they'd not put anything in the transfer to say that they wanted these rights. Anyway, thankfully they didn't, and they weren't bothered actually about ever visiting the mums.
What, the lady who trolled her ex-husband from beyond the grave, funnily enough, her relatives weren't bothered about visiting?
No.
Read into that what you will.
No.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's fantastic.
So, because we did it that way anyway, the property has subsequently, the people who I acted for, they've subsequently sold on. So, yeah, somebody else has now got the lovely burial site.
Amazing. So I was thinking, I've known Lisa for years, because when I was a very junior lawyer, Lisa was a trainee in the same firm, and we used to sit a bit like in a little room, a bit like we are now, and go through the conveyancing transactions together, didn't we?
We did.
And I remember, now I might have misremembered this, but aren't you part of the Molinari ice cream family?
That's exactly correct.
I
yes.
knew it. So your family have brought joy to millions.
Well, I would have thought so.
So were you not tempted to join the family business?
No, not really. Law's always been my thing.
Okay.
I've always, my father actually really wanted to be a lawyer. He didn't get the opportunity. He kind of put that seed in, like me, to do that, and that's where it originated from. And then I think my father had ideas that I'd be the family lawyer, I'd help out with their business, etc. But no, not really. I mean, it's something I'm always called in. I'm the emergency support. If anybody needs anything, or we need assistance with the staff, or if staff's called in sick, I'm always.
Oh, you're on.
I'm always
you're
there
on
to
call.
help. I'm on call.
So do you drive an ice cream van sometimes?
Yeah, love driving a van.
I
learned
love
to
it.
drive in a Sprinter, so yeah.
So great. It's so great. What's your favourite spot to sell ice cream?
Out in the Peak District, I like it. You
Padley
get the nice
Gorge.
view, those kind of areas. You get the nice view. People are nice. You know.
Well, everyone's in a good mood when they're buying ice cream, aren't they?
I like to think so.
Yeah. What's your favourite ice cream?
A Dazzler. I don't know if you've ever had one.
Dazzler? What's a Dazzler?
It's a Haagen-Dazs product. I shouldn't be really saying this, but they
Well,
sell
ice
them
cream
in the
brands
US.
are available.
Sell them in the US. I think they used to have one in Leicester Square, but they used to have a shop there. Very nice.
Really?
Put all your fruit in, and all the works.
So, outside of work, outside
Yes.
of being the emergency ice cream van
Yep.
driver, what do you like to do outside of work? What's your sort of...
I like to, I've got two small children, so...
I said, what do you like to do?
Yeah, exactly. Childcare. Not really like walking in the Peak District, museums, art galleries, just...
Very cultured.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. We just like a wander.
Yeah.
I live close to Sharrowvale, so a wander down Sharrowvale.
Oh, that's a nice little shops
independent shops, cafes.
So is that
Nice.
your dream Saturday then, getting up, going out for a nice brunch or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds pretty good. When are we doing it? When are we going?
When you tell me.
Saturday morning. I'll leave the kids at home. Well, that's it. Thank you very much. I
Well,
really
pain-free.
appreciate you coming on and talking to us. It's been really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for listening. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you'd like to learn more about any of the subjects we've touched upon, we've handpicked some free resources for you, which we will put in the show notes. There's also loads of info on our website, so head over to tayloremmett.co.uk. If something we've spoken about today has given you a burning desire to speak to a solicitor, and let's face it, why wouldn't it have? Then we'd love to speak to you. Head over to the website again, that's tayloremmett.co.uk for more information. You'll find all our contact details right there, so give us a shout. We're lovely, I promise.